All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the roll call and then we can open up officially. Sound okay?
It sure is.
Okay. Rich Berlandy,
Here.
Emily Brick,
I am here.
Dave Fox is absent this evening. Bob Hannon,
Here.
Robert Eisner,
Here.
Mark Simpson,
Here.
Ned Stachin,
Here.
and Jay Tulin.
I'm here.
Okay,
Okay, so,
Chair, it's all you.
all right, so we'll call the meeting to order 7:02. Emily, you will be seated for Dave tonight?
It's a big night.
Yep. So, also, a little bit on the business. One of the things we wanted to do is, my understanding is the Plant 17 issue is a review by Shannon. So we also have the Avon school
Crew team.
crew team. What I'd like to do is, if somebody would move it, is add the Avon crew team to the agenda and then drop Calco. I'm sorry, I'm Plant 17 down to the last item on the agenda. That way Calco's here so they can go first on their two applications.
This is Jay, so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second Ned.
I'm just gonna, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So be it. So first on the agenda is Calco Construction 222 Talcott Notch Road.
Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, Brian Panico, Harry Cole and Son, 876 South Main Street in Plantsville. Here on behalf of the applicant, Calco Construction. The owner of this property at 222 Talcott Notch Road is John Sinise. He's also here. This is a residential R80 subdivision. Total area of the parcels is 16.18 acres. It's currently one lot with a single family home. There's some outbuildings and a pool as well. Those you can see are on this presentation drawing on lot number 5. This is the lot in the middle on the south. This lot is served by public well and septic system, surrounded by residential properties to the south, the east, and the north, with Talcott Notch Road to the west. The wetlands run along what the soil scientist has identified as a intermittent channel. So that's not necessarily a stream that is constantly running water. It's intermittent seasonally, depending on rainfall. And you can also see there on the south behind the existing house is a pond. That pond was created, it's dammed. And so the wetlands follow along that intermittent channel to the south of the house on lot 4 through to a larger wetland pocket after the pond, which runs off the site. There's approximately 0.76 acres of wetlands on this site and approximately 2 acres of upland review area, which are pretty much through the backs. You can see the upland review area on that presentation drawing, kind of highlighted by that purple line, and the wetlands are all outlined there in the blue with that lighter green kind of color running inside of it. The proposed application, as I said, was an R80 residential subdivision, cul-de-sac, private road, services all 6 lots. The existing house has a driveway off of Talcott Notch now that will be removed, and the existing house's driveway will connect to that cul-de-sac. There are 2 detention basins on site proposed, one on the north and one on the south side of the road. All the runoff from both the street and all the land surrounding the houses is all directed into those 2 detention basins. We're meeting a 0 increase in runoff, providing water quality before all of that gets into the existing storm drainage system. Currently, the existing house, roof leaders, runoff, everything just flows overland sheet flow through the site, which is now mostly wooded, obviously, in order to put the road in all these houses. A large portion of it will be cleared, and that will end up as grass, which also slows and allows for more infiltration. The biggest recommendation from the town, which we have no objection to, was to create some sort of a conservation easement along lots 4 and 5, and I believe maybe a portion of lot 6 as well, just in the area of that wetland, so that in the area where we are still proposing for the trees to remain, they do remain, and therefore kind of create a buffer for those residential properties so they know where the limits are, so that we're not, so that at no point in time are they ever clearing too close to those wetlands, kind of provide a little additional buffer. A couple of the comments that we just wanted to go through, we have provided. I know originally the town was looking for functions and values. That's been provided. I did speak with the soil scientist today. Most of the wetland on this site is because of that channel. There's not a large amount of actual wetland plants. There's no endangered species in there. It's more just because of that intermittent channel and the settling of water that's provided by the soil type wetland, as opposed to more of a vegetated type. So if there are any questions about that, about this project in general, I'd be happy to kind of go through and answer those.
I just want to ask one thing. I think you might have started mentioning it, but on the list of items to consider, if you could at least identify maybe A, B, C, whatever those that you identified and submitted to the town, or are we still waiting for that information to come in?
Sure. So item to consider A was the impact analysis. In speaking with the soil scientist, that's typically not something he would do unless it's deemed, this is deemed like a significant activity. If there's strong concern for what's taking place on site and how it could affect the wetlands. His initial thoughts were, this being residential and continuing to be residential, this development in general should not affect the wetlands. For the most part, the wetlands are actually to the side of all these properties. So as water is flowing and as anything going on the properties is occurring, that water is actually being channeled directly to the west. The site slopes pretty strongly from east to west. So it's not running off directly into a wetland. It would have to go to that, being collected in that detention basin first, and then kind of treated and then discharged into the storm drainage system. So item B was the item that we talked about as far as the conservation easement around some of those wetland areas and some of those areas that could remain trees. We did provide a conservation easement on lot 4 and 5, but that's more of that very southmost wetland pocket that runs along the southern property lines for 4 and 5. So I think that the intention by the staff's comment, and they can feel free to kind of step in, was just to provide a little bit more directly behind the houses in order to protect some additional wetland area. So that was something that we had talked about, and we can work on and get on the plan and work with staff on. Easement markers would be obviously then guessing that the easement markers or the conservation markers rather in the areas of both where we are calling out the conservation easement and that new conservation easement, those would be added. And then the rest of the comments regarding how sediment and erosion controls are shown on the plans and how they're going to be installed in the field, that we have no objection to. DEP permit would be required, is item D. And then obviously when that's completed, town staff would be notified and sent copies of that so that they could review it and have a copy of their own as well. And then, so item E, F, and G and H are all, E, F, and G are all in regards to just the erosion controls, which we can update the plans to show those, update details to show how those are going to be installed and where they're going to be installed, so there's no confusion. And then I believe item H, and Shannon and Bruce, if you could just correct me, but this is basically with the DEP stormwater permit, their requirements. You guys are also looking for rainfall events larger than 1/2 inch to be notified as well, and get reports from the engineer as well.
Correct. We want, correct. We want inspection reports and by a certified professional to do those inspection reports for the erosion control, and copies of those reports to be provided to town staff. and implement any remedial recommendations be implemented.
Okay. And, just confer with the applicant and make sure he's okay with that. Good. Okay, and the applicant has indicated that that's fine. And I believe actually as part of the DEP general permit as well, those inspections are usually done weekly or bi-weekly anyway. And then I think that their threshold is actually 1/10 of an inch, if I'm not mistaken. So for the most part, could pretty much just notify you every time or get you guys copies of those reports pretty much weekly as we're out there.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that for
absolutely.
the record. So no, I appreciate your help on that. So, Rich, any questions? Comments?
Question I have is, I'd be interested to see where the conservation easement line would be proposed, on this development, especially on lot 4, because the house seems awfully close to the intermittent stream. And lot 5, not so much. There seems to be some space there, and lot 6 there's some space, but lot 4 seems awfully close. So I'd be really interested in seeing where that conservation easement is proposed.
okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Emily?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Robert?
No questions at this time.
Okay. Mark?
I think I was thinking the same way about the wooded area, how thick it would be around the waterway there. I'm thinking not that it's flowing water, but all the time. But it'd be nice to have a canopy, somewhat of a canopy thickness of at least 10 feet, just to cover anything that's in there that's using that waterway to live and keep it cooler. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Ned?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. So the pond was created with a dam, I'm guessing when they built the house, the original house. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, and there's nothing proposed to make any changes to that dam or anything like that, or make any changes to that pond, right?
No, so that that entire area is remaining untouched. The tree clearing that's there surrounding the pond is already there. That's not being modified, and the house is remaining exactly the same. The only part about that house that's changing is the driveway. And that's just because instead of it coming all the way out, it's just it'll all be removed and tied into the new cul-de-sac accordingly.
Okay, and I can't quite read the plans. What are some of the other buildings that are on that property? There's
a couple of sheds, pool house type of thing. There's a small cabin. And I believe that's it. So the kind of building all the way to the right of the screen there to the east, I believe that's a cabin. And then there's a garage directly off of the driveway and a couple of smaller sheds. The box that's not filled in with a color is the pool.
okay. All right, and then I don't know if you can answer this, but on item G, they talk about construction sequencing. Do we know if all these houses are going to be built at the same time, or are we going to be, staggering them, build and sell, or some combination thereof?
So you plan on building the road all at once? So there'll be custom homes. They'll be built kind of on a per sale basis. The road, I would imagine the road's getting roughed in all at once. in one shot, and then build all the houses. Once everything's finally built, then do the final course of pavement and stuff like that. But the houses will be built slowly. So, and I know that it's come up with staff comments in the past on some of these things. So as they're doing this, clear the lot, a couple lots at a time as you're ready to build, and not cut the entire site all at once and do all. So it'll be more staged, kind of sequenced.
Okay. Yeah, we're just trying to minimize a massive drastic change to the whole area at one time. So I think if we could do it in stages, it would be a lot less traumatic to the area.
Yeah, and we'll update and kind of just go through a more in-depth sequence of construction on the plan so that it's clear and dry and what the plan actually is.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ned. Mark, I'm sorry, Jay?
Nothing real specific. Just a quick mention. I was kind of thinking the same thing that Rich was about, just being clear about the easement for lot 4. So I just a quick mention that I was kind of thinking the same thing as Rich. That's it.
I mean, the only thing that I'll sort of add in based on what Ned was talking about, and doing the phasing, I mean, that's fine. But one of the things that make sure that you have in the plans is also how you'll be maintaining the perimeter erosion control measures until everything is sort of stabilized.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if that's in the plans or not, but when you're doing the plans, if you can make sure that at least that issue is addressed,
Absolutely.
it just makes it a little bit easier for everybody. We've got a better understanding of what's being proposed and how long we can expect the measures to be in place, and then maybe get an idea about how long it's going to take to develop the area. So other than that, I don't think I had a lot, but I want to go back to something that I'm not sure I heard you correctly. Initially, when you were giving the presentation, did you say they're on public well or public water?
So all of these houses will be well and septic.
Okay, so it's not public, it'll be well and septic.
Sorry, yeah, private
Yep.
wells and septic.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I don't really have anything else at this point in time. But in terms of some of the housekeeping that we need to deal with, so first I'll ask, can we get a motion to accept the application?
This is Mark, so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second Statuen.
Okay, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining? Okay, so we will accept the application. What's your take on a site walk? Yes, no, I'm not sure. So Rich?
I would lean toward having a site walk.
Okay, Emily?
I'm not opposed to it.
Okay, Robert?
Yes, I would favor a site walk.
Mark?
Sidewalk.
Ned?
Yeah, a site walk, and I would like them to have, well, at least the outline of house 4. The corners, or I know they don't know exactly what's going to go there, but the basic outlines where the house is proposed, so we can see where it is in relation to the stream.
Okay. Jay?
Yeah, sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, I would concur with that. And again, I think part of it is just to get a better feel for what the site looks like. And if we are talking about a conservation easement, that's maybe something that can be discussed at the site, so people get a better feel for what is appropriate, what may not be, so that way everybody, I think, has a better understanding going forward.
Okay.
So,
And we'll make sure that the soil scientist can be available for that too. That way, if there's any questions,
and that's Mr. Lord, right?
Mr. Lord. Yep.
Okay. You want,
So suggested dates are Saturday, September 18th, or Sunday, September 19th. Suggested time is an 8:30 start time.
I mean, that's fine by me. I'll be back, so.
Okay. Commission members, do you know offhand, does anyone have either the Saturday or Sunday you Probably you cannot do at this point.
I might have a football game conflict on Saturday, but I don't have the schedule with me.
Okay.
This is Jay. My preference would be Sunday of the 2 days, for whatever that's worth.
You have a preference for the sidewalk date? Fine. Okay. So
Thank you.
it sounds like the 19th might be better because
Yeah, because football is, if I have a game, it's either Friday night or Saturday morning. So Sunday would be better.
All right, Sunday at 8:30, and then we can figure out if we're going to do a site walk at the other one, which one we do first. So that's fine. Okay.
And then the other issue that we typically look at is I would maybe hold off to determine significance until we actually walk the site.
Sounds
Get a
good.
better feel for it. Everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
This is Rich. I would agree with that.
I agree, and if the applicant could work with Shannon, in addition to the staking of lot 4, some other major features like the center line of the road or some of the lot corners would be helpful, but Shannon will be able to advise. Thank you.
That's good. So I think we've addressed the issues that we need to deal with this evening.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in and giving the information.
All right. We're so efficient.
So next up on the agenda is Calco section 168 Copper Mine Road.
Correct.
All right, so say my name for the record again. For the record, Brian Panico, Harry Colin's son, 876 South Main Street in Plantsville. Here on behalf of the applicant, Calco Construction, Inc. The owner of this property is The Gardens LLC. So this is a current property is an R30 residential. Total area of the parcel is 14.39 acres. It's one single family house. There was a barn, outbuildings, driveway off of Copper Mine Road. Surrounded by residential properties to the east, to the west, east, and the north. South is Copper Mine Road. Currently, the site slopes from east to west. The parcel is roughly wooded, almost through half of it. The eastern half has got a large open cleared area. The western half is relatively wooded. That's the area of the wetlands. And there are approximately 4 acres of wetlands on the site. And 2.35 acres of upland review area. So just like in the previous presentation drawing, the wetlands are outlined with the darker blue line there. That green area is wetlands on the inside. And then the purple lines are upland review. So the reason you're seeing 2 is there is a small stream that runs through that wetland. So the purple lines that we're showing are both the upland review area for the wetlands and then the upland review for the stream. As you can see, the upland review for the stream falls entirely almost within, obviously, the wetland area, but should give some scale. Those are 150 feet, I believe. So give you some scale as to how far that stuff is. So we're proposing an R30 cluster subdivision. Cul-de-sac provides access to all 11 lots. Rear yards for lot 8, 9, and 10 are in the upland review area. And then the detention basin, we have 2 detention basins. The detention basin to the south takes the majority of the road runoff. There's a high point in the road, at which point all the runoff is directed to that basin, and then and then a low point in the cul-de-sac, which takes the water into another detention basin in the northwest corner of the site there. Our intent behind that was to just mimic more of the existing natural runoff pattern on the site. When we had the original, this site has been, has had a development proposed here in the past. It was a 12 lot development with one larger basin. The larger basin was proposed clearing a whole bunch of the trees in that upland review kind of south west corner there for the detention basin, and all the stormwater was directed there. And there was a fear in doing that that could dry out portions of the wetland. So in order to kind of provide a little bit better of a plan, we broke those drainage areas up so that you had more water going naturally to the same place it would have been going before. Another big difference between this and the previous application is we have 11 lots instead of the 12. We've also taken the lot sizes, and because this is a cluster, we've reduced them down to minimums on the eastern side of the road. That allowed us to shift the entire road to the east a little bit and in effect limit our upland disturbance as much as possible. What it also allowed us to do was not cut basically, cut as little trees in the upland review area as possible. A big concern in the previous application was, and I think it just came up in the previous discussion, was removing tree canopy and how that could affect, kind of heating up the wetlands, dry things out, could affect life in the wetland and everything like that. So by doing this kind of big change, we've effectively eliminated a lot of that tree clearing, keeps the better canopy over the wetlands and over that stream area. By splitting it up into the two detention basin areas, we also were then able to reduce the amount of tree clearing. So we have a small portion basically through the middle of the site that's actually being cleared. And Shannon, actually, if you could jump to the next slide, just so you can kind of see, this is an overlay that just kind of shows kind of the lot layout and where is cleared and where is not, just from an aerial perspective. So you can see where the tree line kind of comes along on the inside there, and then it bumps out along where that second detention basin to the north is. That's really the only area that we're really clearing trees within the upland review. And then as you get it to the end of the cul-de-sac, we have 2 more lots and we're clearing some trees on those 2 as well. So effectively, the areas now that we are using for detention, we're not taking away nearly as much tree cover, nearly as much canopy. And that was directly one of the main concerns in the last application. We all have reduced the wetland buffer impacts. The previous application, I believe had almost 3 acres or so of upland review area impact. We've actually dropped that down to 2 acres. And the impacts that we have are clearing and grading, primarily grading for the detention basins, the house on lot 11, and then the rear yards on lot 8, 9, and 10. So as you look at this map, you can see where the existing house is and where the proposed house is on that lot 11. And so they're virtually almost in the same place. Actually, the house we're proposing is slightly further away. So the impact there is very minimal as well. The realign the road, like I said, it also maximizes then open space because we're reducing the amount of area that's designated directly to the lots. And another big question, I'll see what comment number this was because I know it came up a couple of times, was was vernal pools. David Lord, the soil scientist, has did this as well. He had done a vernal pool analysis in 2018. He done another one in 2019, and then he went through and walked this again in 2020 when he put new flags up and just so everything was nice and clear. And he did not find any evidence of vernal pools. He unfortunately isn't able to make it tonight. He is going to write a letter, which we will submit into the record stating that. If there's any questions on kind of the overall plan here, I'd be happy to go over those. But I think that pretty much sums up the major changes that we've made to this plan.
Okay, just before I go in with asking the commissioners if they have any comments, I'm assuming based on some of your comments that you've gone back and looked at the record on this particular development.
Yeah, so we
have adjusted things accordingly to.
So we've pretty extensively gone through a lot of the record for that. We started working on this back when David Lord reflagged the wetlands in 2020. So we've kind of been going back and forth on the best possible outcomes with him and what we could do to create a better plan. And this is what we were able to come up with. So a lot of the major issues we've addressed. There are some still outstanding issues that there was just some conflicts between the previous application. There were some conflicts between the third party review and David Lord and some of the other professionals in their thoughts and thinkings. And so we kind of just said, we took the stance that we're going to just take this plan and redesign it, kind of ignore the old design, start from scratch. We'll take those things into consideration, but let's try to just create a better plan overall. And that's kind of what we did and where we ended up.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So we'll go, Rich, we'll start with you again.
I guess tonight I'm Mr. Conservation Easement. Is any conservation easement proposed for this development?
So we haven't proposed any conservation easements. We are proposing that all of the wetlands and a good chunk of that upland review is just placed into conservation as this is as open space. So all the area that's outside of those lots. And Shannon, if you want to jump back up to that other slide, it might be a little more clear there. So both of the detention basins, all of that is in open space. Behind lots, I believe that's 6 and 7 is open space.
So all that.
So is this road going to be a private road, and who would be responsible for maintaining the detention ponds?
So this would be proposed as a public road.
Public road.
And either the town owned open space or I think that normally the town would maintain those. We do have an little access road and access to obviously the open space between the two lots there and that northern detention basin, so that there is easy and adequate access. Those detention basins are also very shallow and should be relatively easy to maintain for the town as well.
Okay, so I see the northern basin has an outlet structure, drainage outlet structure into it. The other basin is just accepting overland flow?
So both basins.
Oh, I see it.
Yes, both basins collect water from the road, from either side of the high point, basically in the road. And then both basins have a discharge, which is an infiltration level spreader type of a discharge structure. And so what that does is it basically is structures that are halfway or 3/4 of the way in the ground. Those will take the water as it comes out of the basin and allows those structures to fill up and slowly either infiltrate the water into the ground, or during large storm events, it would overflow out of the very top orifices of those infiltration structures into riprap and then spread evenly into the wetlands. So groundwater recharge was another big question and concern in the previous application. So these are an effort to better allow for some infiltration and some groundwater recharge. All of the unit roofs, all the roofs on every house will have infiltration chambers so that provides more groundwater recharge. The fear was that somehow by adding all of these buildings in and these foundations, it could somehow stop or slow down the groundwater flow through the site and take water out of the wetland. So wanted to make sure that we're recharging and we're adding as much water back to that wetland as possible while still being responsible in the amount of water that's allowed to flow.
Okay. Is there an easement proposed to get access to that outlet, that storm drainage outlet in the south of that linear detention pond? On the inlet pipe,
I believe
right there, yeah. How are you going to get access to that to maintain it?
I believe there is an easement over that lot in the side yards of each of those two lots for maintenance and access.
Okay. And the existing house is what's the disposition of that?
The existing house, barns, all the structures on the site are, I think some of them are already removed and the rest will be removed.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Rich. Emily?
I had actually a very similar easement question, but I think you've just answered it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Robert?
No questions. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, the only thing I have a question about is the detention basins. You said the southern one is going to be, majority of the water is going to be directed that way. Where is the water going to go? Well, maybe define where the water is going to go into what basin.
Actually, Shannon, I guess if you want to go to like the road profile sheet, which is in this, if you scroll down,
Okay.
kind of shows and outlines better where the delineation in the road is for the high point. So you can see, there you go. So you can see kind of like lot 3 in that area right there, lot 3 and 4. That's kind of the delineation of where the high point of that road is. So
Yeah.
stormwater coming into the road is basically split at that point, goes down to either the cul-de-sac or into the catch basins along the road, and from there either goes into that northern or southern basin.
Okay, I figured, yeah, I would say 2/3 was going to go in the southern basin versus the northern one.
Correct, and that's kind of why they're sized a little bit differently as well. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Ned?
Are these city town water and sewer?
Correct. So this will be on public water and public.
Okay. And I'm not familiar with the previous submittal. Where was the you said you had 12 lots, you went down to 11. Was that like in between 7 and 8? Was that a lot previously?
Actually,
And-
Shane, if you want to go down 2 slides there, I believe I included what the previous.
Okay, all right.
You can see kind of how even that basically how the road starts much further west. The lots were were larger on the eastern side, and then it projects more into that kind of already treed area and upland review area. It's much closer to the wetlands. So where we now have the detention basin to the north there, they had a house, and then our detention basin to the south is roughly where those houses are shown now. So effectively by essentially doing what the kind of intent of of a cluster is, which is reducing the land area and tightening everything up so that you can create more open space, we were able to do that and then eliminate a lot of that upland disturbance.
Okay, so then when you reconfigured the lots too, you were able to move, because it looks like from the first drawing, we're looking at just about every house, if not maybe a corner or two, are out of the 150-foot delineation.
You're talking about for the lot for the front?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it wasn't so
Okay.
much frontages, it's the lot areas. So now looking back at this one after you've seen that, you can see kind of how everything is tighter to the property line.
okay.
So that's because the lot areas are smaller. As far as the frontages go, they're still have the same amount of frontage, but the overall size of the lots is reduced from a square footage
No,
perspective.
but it looks like the footprint of you were by with those changes, you were able to get the footprint of the building itself out of the 150-foot
Correct.
setback.
Correct.
Okay,
On most of those lots, yes.
yeah, okay. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ned. Jay?
So, I mean, I don't know if I'm deeply committed to this notion or not. I'm just, from what I'm listening to, I'm just wondering if there's any thought that we need to go take a look at this. That's really my only comment.
Okay, thanks. Fortunately, you covered a number of the things I was writing down, so I don't really need to go over them.
Wonderful.
So in terms of, okay, so got the stormwater. You said that Mr. Lord will be submitting something associated with the vernal pool analysis.
Correct. We spoke
Okay.
to him this afternoon.
'Cause
Yeah.
I think that was a question, Shannon, that you had on the record that we were looking for. I guess I'll throw this out because I don't know which way this would go, but if the town determines that it does not want the open space and maintaining the basins, what's the applicant's position on that and how would they deal with that situation?
How you doing? John Sinise, 222 Talcott Notch Farmington. We did a subdivision in town, Wisteria Lane, which the public road and the detention basin and wetlands, upland wetlands is part of an association. And part of a homeowners association. So yeah, we could do the same thing here, create that homeowners association for maintenance and servicing of the pond areas. But
I just want to get something like that on the record because again, I don't know what the town's position would be. But if the town, if you're saying that the goal is to have the town accept it and maintain it and the town says no, I just want to make sure there's something, a backup plan to deal with something like that. So
we created two sites like this with private associations. But then you got to govern those associations. So kind of complex. Really should be a town road, town responsibility to maintain the infrastructure.
Okay. And one of the things I will state for the record, I know part of the reason why there were some issues the last time in terms of stormwater, things of that nature is because of how close Unionville Brook is. And that is a cold water trout stream and everybody was concerned about how that original plan was laid out. So again, we can go back and take a look at this, but I can see that there are some significant differences in what's been proposed here versus what the original proposal was. So, I mean, other than that, I really don't think that I have much. Like I said, you answered a lot of my questions before I could get them out. So that's appreciated. Oh, there was one other thing I was going to mention or ask. You said that some of the buildings have been taken down, but some still exist. Which buildings exist?
We took down the old house and some greenhouses. The barn is still in place. There's a barn there, pretty good sized barn.
Well, actually, I was going to raise the question that Robert usually raises, because if the house was still there, I'm just wondering if it was possible to salvage any of the house.
No, it was way gone.
Okay, well, that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, I don't really have any additional questions at this point in time, but I'd like to get a motion to accept the application.
Is Mark so moved?
Is there a second?
Second by Robert.
Okay. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining. Okay. So I guess Jay raised the question, so I'll just go and ask each one individually about a site walk. Rich?
Yeah, I would be in favor of the sidewalk.
Okay, Emily?
Sure thing.
Or Robert?
Yes, we should do a sidewalk.
And Mark?
Yeah, sidewalk.
Ned?
Yes.
Jay, you've already spoken and I'll agree with that too, so probably try to do both of those on the same day, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the same day. Do you care which one we do first, given one's your residence, the technically, so so we typically start around 8:30, so if you care as to which place we start, then.
Residents.
Okay.
Okay.
So 222. Okay,
And
we'll start at Talcott and then go to Copper.
and then I'm assuming we'll do the same thing for this one that we did the early one, hold off on determination of significance until we actually walk the site.
I agree.
I would agree.
Okay. So I think right now, that's it for tonight.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything anyone wants staked out on this particular layout? So we talked about stakeout for Talcott Notch. Do you want the rear of the lots for 11, 8, 9, 10, 11, and, well, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11?
Yeah,
Yeah, so normally we can do that and maybe we'll stake out the two outlets of that detention basin.
Sure.
So that you have an idea of where that's gonna go.
A little bit of reference would help.
yeah.
You want to,
That'd be perfect.
The center line of road maybe? Or,
just a little bit of reference for it.
yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I got a chat. Who do I have a chat?
So we will do an added item.
They added, so we want
School of
to do
Avon?
Avon crew.
Yeah.
How do I? Talking about. You guys got a great, yeah, hang on here. Wait. He wants you to do, I don't know what he wants to do. No, you can get it. Eject right there. I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah, I don't think I have it open. No, because I copied the stuff over. Here, well, let me close the chat thing, so that's not in your way.
Yeah, just pull
Yeah, I think you should be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Never done that before. I just close out of it. So I don't have it open in Explorer. I copied it over, so it should be fine. All right, let me. Okay, we are going to go to Avon. So I forwarded to all of you the request from the Avon Board of Education for their crew team, basically for a renewal / continued use of the Betterson Park pond. The ownership of the pond and that property, the Batterson Park area, is the city of Hartford. So that's why there is a lease agreement and reference to the city of Hartford within their letter and request. This is an extension of a request that they already had with us. Sandy went back, I think she said it was originally approved and I want to say she said 2008, but obviously they have and included in the previous approval that got us from 16 to 19. And now they're looking for the extension to 22. Bob and I discussed the fact that it didn't come before you prior to then because the previous agreement went through to the end of 2019, so it would have covered their fall season. And then spring 2020, obviously, is when COVID hit. So spring, fall, and 2020 didn't, I don't believe Avon Road. And then spring 2021, we actually shared space with Avon at the Farmington River. I don't believe they pulled everything out, but obviously it's quite extensive for them to bring everything down and get set up down at Batterson Park. So they just opted not to do that. And they may have also used winding trails and shared space there. So the setup is going to be the same. They've got an area of storage, storage trailer for boats and equipment. And then it's a small 10 by 60 floating dock, very similar to what we installed down on the river. So this is just an extension of the request and approval that had been previously approved by the commission. So this is what they're looking to do, and if everyone's in agreement, then we can actually extend and vote on this and this evening. It doesn't require a 2 meeting.
So Rich, what's your flavor on this one?
Well, if it keeps raining, they'll be able to do crew right at the high school.
Which-
Avon High School.
A little bit higher elevation, I think.
No, I have no objection to them extending their use here.
Emily?
I am 100% fine with this. Absolutely.
Okay. Robert?
I too am fine with it. I do have one question. Shannon, are you aware of any issues that came up during the last period that was authorized?
No, we've had no issues with litter, or there's been none. Nothing. I can remind them, obviously, carry in, carry out. I'm sure the city of Hartford does as well. It's, again, it's their property, but I can certainly remind them of the best management practices in and around a water body from an environmental perspective. So.
Okay, thanks. No, I was just want to make sure if in fact there were any issues, then we'd have the opportunity to address those, but I have no concern with the continued use. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mark?
I have no concerns, but the only question I have, is there any other high schools using the same body of water? I thought maybe Lewis Mills or somebody was there also.
Yeah, Lewis Mills, Rose at Winding Trails, Simsbury Rose further up on the Farmington River. We have our area, and Avon has traditionally rode down at Batterson. I'm not aware of any other school.
It's Lewis Mills. I wasn't too sure where they rode. Okay. I have no issues with this.
They have other stuff over at Winding Trails.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Mark. Ned?
Yeah, I have no problem with extending the agreement.
Okay. Jay?
I think Jay had to leave for a moment. He had said,
Okay.
He did. I'm not sure if he's back. I'm on a different phone, so I need to be unmuted. Okie dokie.
Okay.
Okay, Jay, you should be good to go.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for being patient with me. My wife needed the other phone, so I have no problem with that at all.
Okay, no problem.
I don't have any problem with either, but I do have a question. I thought that there was supposed to be a bunch of work being done at Batterson Park. And will that adversely impact what they're doing with the rowing?
There is water main work being done along Batterson
No,
Park
I
Road.
thought that there was a chunk of money that had come into the state, and there was money being allocated to refurbish Batterson Park to try to get it back up to some of its glory days. So that may be something we want to take a look at. Because if that is in fact the case, I just want to make sure that they're not going to be in the middle of some type of activities going on at the site. I mean, I have no problem with what they want to do. I'm just trying to make sure there's not a potential conflict.
Really, that's a coordination item
Yeah.
between the city of Hartford and the Board of Ed for Avon.
Yep.
Really, so yeah, I would say that's
The important things in life.
the coordination between them, and
Okay.
I'm not that they're necessarily obligated to notify us, but we haven't been informed, to my knowledge, of any
Okay.
major renovation work
So they
going
may not have
on at that
plans yet.
location.
Definitive plans of what they're going to do.
Correct.
It's my understanding that they're going to be doing major renovation work over at Batterson Park.
Sure. Well, I mean, they had the fire at the one building, so it would stand to reason that there's certainly some work to be done there, but the timing of it, I mean, any building work would still, even though it's a city entity, would still
I
need a
thought there
building.
might be dredging as well, so.
Okay.
Okay, but if we haven't heard anything, then it's
Yeah.
probably not something that's going to happen by the time that this would
I mean,
expire.
their fall season will be done by November 1st. And then
All right.
spring isn't going to
So
start.
I just wanted to bring that up because
Certainly.
I could swear I heard something on that and just. I mean,
Okay, I'll
they'll have to
simply,
coordinate with the city of Hartford if there's something there, but
I can, as a courtesy to them, let them know that they might want to just confirm,
Just to see if there's any
coordinate
work
efforts,
proposed out there, yeah.
but I think before they can finalize and sign, like the city wants our approval, and then
Yep.
they'll send in the license agreement, and I'm sure at that point, if there's something going on, it's gonna hit somebody's desk, but I can make the business manager at Board of Ed, aware to at least make the inquiry,
Okay,
so that, there aren't try to minimize surprises.
okay, no, thank you. So if I can get a motion to approve the extension request to, I believe it's October 31st, 2022. Is
So moved by Robert.
there a second?
Second, Mark.
Jay, I'll second. Oh,
Yeah, let somebody else do it.
some, I don't know if I missed out, but it's Jay. I'll second if no one else did.
All right, and seeing as how everybody's opinion on this seemed to be positive, I'm just gonna go. Those in favor of approving the extension, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstaining? Okay, so we have our direction there. And now we get to watch the movie.
Yeah, there's a couple of drone flights. I won't necessarily go. I'll just pick the last one, and then, obviously we've got rain and more rain, and so
Well, that makes the grass greener though.
it's been great from, getting the vegetation in the upland area to take, which has been fabulous. So this is really great. With respect to getting a handle on how our wetland creation area is gonna actually work, not so much. So with 10 inches of rain in July, and, we're gonna be pushing 10 inches. I think we were at 8 inches of rain in August. Technically, today's September 1st, so we'll start a new calendar. We might be starting with 5 inches of rain, and right out of the gate in September. So this certainly has had a non-traditional start, but it's still, you can see the greening on the sides, which is all good. And there was the report from George, which was included for all of you. Just the brief email update that he'd been in Greece for a month and then was back and hit the site. So restoration area is well vegetated. The slope and some of the wetland has barnyard grass, which won't last as other plants mature. They're going to do some sediment clearing, obviously with some of the rain. It helped with the germination, but we did have a little bit of sloughing of material. We've been watching that. So they're getting that and getting that hand removed. I'd rather have that and have everything starting to germinate than have it be the Sahara Desert out there. So I think this is of the two extremes. I think we got a better deal with this. Lots of water. We're going to have to see, as George said, we're going to have to see really in the spring, next summer, how are these plants doing, and do we need to shift? Is the hydrology we're seeing here going to start to be a permanent state because of how this started, or does it change if we start to back off on the rain? Like, how long does this area really stay saturated? So we're just gonna have to be patient, but he's continuing to monitor it. And quite honestly, even if it stays wet, I don't know if that's really a bad thing. He's already seeing amphibian activity in it. Tadpoles, amphibians. At this point, he said it's probably eastern toad and gray tree frog. So, but they're being used. Obviously, there's no need for the groundwater monitoring pipes at this particular point in time. But if the hydrology changes, then we'll get those in. There are there's a little bit of mugwort and knotweed. So I do want them to follow up with that. So, and he's planning on being out next week. So I'll poke at him regarding, because I'd like to join him out there. He always loves when he has somebody tagging along. But I'll try and join him when he's out next at the site, and then make sure that just a handful of recommendations with sediment removal and getting some of the knotweed and mugwort pulled. get those things taken care of, and then we should be in good shape. He'll probably, take a look at it again. We'll be out in September. I'll take a look at it in October. Whether or not it'll need another look in November or December, I'll leave to him, but we'll be back at it then again. Probably next March, April, looking for little critters, using it as breeding areas. So it'll be a little bit of a lull during the winter, but I have a feeling we're going to have a few other things to occupy our time. So,
Not
So-
sure I like the sound of that.
yeah, it's, we got a few interesting things in the queue. So,
Any of them enforcement issues?
no,
Okay.
thank God, no enforcement issues. So that's, that really summarizes that. Does anyone have any questions, or is there any info that you thought you wanted that you haven't gotten on this from a follow-up standpoint for 1179? And I can certainly reach out to them and get additional info if anyone's looking for it.
And the only question that I have is where some of the areas still look pretty barren, like some of the roadways and things.
Right.
When would we expect something like that to be? I don't know if they're gonna have to sort of rototill it a little bit, or at least soften up the ground so that seed's gonna be able to take,
Right.
rather than putting it on hard pan.
Right. So I think George has already asked that they go ahead and get this area seeded. Keeping in mind that this right here at the top of the photo is the access drive into, so you come here and you get into here.
Yep.
So I think we might be another season out, because they're gonna need to get planting material. They may need to get planting material, equipment, whatever, into here. But outside of this access road and this access in, he's asked them to seed the rest of it, so we can
Okay.
get that this certainly this fall. And thankfully, because of the way this is graded, and it's, you don't really pick it up in the drone photo, but this is relatively flat. The pitch of this starts somewhere in this area. So this isn't going anywhere. Even with a heavy rain, it's not really going anywhere. If anything, it comes back out this way. This little, as you're ramping up, he gets some back out into his own storage yard. But there isn't really any heavy erosion going on, either to the right or left of this access road.
Now, we settled on 8-to-1 slopes over here, I think.
Correct. And sorry, everybody, I'm like, my clicker's my finger's a little twitchy apparently. So let me get this area correct. There. It's here, sorry. In here is the reclamation area. I can still see there's like the straw wattle here at the top. So right in this area is where they had filled that part of wetland A that needed to have the plantings done. And so that was pushed back at the 8-to-1, correct, and then revegetated. And so in a mix of all of this greenery in here, they've got the meadow mix, which is taken quite nicely, but there's also the plant, there's the variety of all the trees and specimens. They had, I want to say, well over 100 plants in here, and then they had plugs in the bottom of the restoration area. So.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or anything on it?
No questions here.
So move on to the planner's report.
Yes. Planner's report is just one thing real quick. So, and it was in the agenda review, the Midpoint development, obviously they formally granted an extension to open the hearing to September 22nd. And the second site walk is taking place September 9th. So those that couldn't hit October 25th, to the extent that you can accommodate the site walk on September 9th, that would be great. It's a Thursday evening. We'll start at 5:30. I will send a reminder either later this week or at the start of next week. So I think it'd be beneficial. It's one of those that it's large enough. It's a full development of a brand new site. I think it's worth the walk if you can accommodate for those that haven't been there yet.
It is.
Yeah, I know you've been there. The other item is our Quabic River. So those that are familiar with the trail down in the flats with the meadows, and behind the Culp Gardens and the farm fields, where the Pequabic comes into the Farmington River, the confluence, just south of the confluence. The erosion from the heavy rain we had when Hurricane Fred came in. So it was a Thursday morning and we got about 3.5 inches of rain in an hour and a half. And I know because of the rain gauge that I've got and we're tracking it. Between that and then the follow-up rain from Henri, we have a noticeable chunk of embankment missing. So a part of the trail, you can already see there's already part of this had started to slough off. If I go back to historical aerials, right, that area right there looks a little different. And we come in here and had been eroding as it comes around. You know, anytime it's coming around a bend, it's not helpful. And then you take into the confluence and any back pressure from the Farmington River. And we know with the heavy storms and all the rain we've had, they've had to let water out of the dam. So depending upon our elevation, you're getting a push and pull with this water in this area. And earlier this week, it came to our attention that this is sloughed off even farther and is about halfway into the walking trail that's there. So we've had to shut the walking trail down. Obviously, we weren't able to do anything before this storm, so we're expecting to lose more material with this storm. And then as an emergency fix for this, we will be armoring this area. So they're working on getting stone, trying to get secure some larger boulders. And the area was already, there is some vegetation in the area, and the vegetation clearly isn't, and the material is all floodplain material. So it's sand, silt, great organic material for farm fields, and it is not going to hold up. So they are looking at getting that corrected. So understanding that everybody's using those trails and people are walking, I just wanted to make you folks aware that, one, we're aware that there's been damage, and two, we're going to be armoring it in order to try to create a permanent solution to this. So I think that's, obviously if there's any questions on that, I'm happy to answer any, but I've got, Russ Arnold, Jim Rusbason, and myself have all been chatting about this.
Yeah, are any of the trees or things like that getting undercut? The erosion?
We're gonna have to look a little more. So we gotta let the water come down a little bit. I personally haven't, I've seen photos. I personally haven't been out. The problem is right now figuring out how to get there and where stable soil is. I think Jim said they can't really come in from this side. There's fissures in the soil. So so they're actually going to come up and around, and he said they're going to access it. They're going to bring the trucks in from the north end. So yeah, we're going to have to look at that, Bob, to see. Obviously any trees and vegetation that can be saved is going to be saved.
Yeah,
we can get the armoring in front of it. So we might
down, that just takes out more of the embankment and it becomes less stable.
Right.
There's a lot more work that needs to be done. Yeah.
Cycles. So we might extend. So we're going to obviously armor in here where that gap is. If we can extend it, a little bit to the north and south and protect that bank as this water's coming around, that outside edge and scouring that outside edge, we will certainly, do that. We'll take a look and get some extra, riprap in there and armoring. And we'll
And
take,
then this is Rich. If you had a chance to walk the land trust property, is the same thing happening there?
land trust property, is that this? I don't know what property.
8495 kind of.
No, so that's, so this Stone Dust Trail, to our knowledge, this is fine. So it's just when you get in here. So my understanding is this trail where the Stone Dust Trail is okay. It's here.
It's up
Blocked it up.
another bend.
Yeah, so it's the outer, right, it's the outer edge. So they've blocked this off. I don't think they want anyone walking in from this way, and I think they've got it blocked off. They're forcing people to turn around like somewhere up here. So they've just blocked the whole thing off now. The farmer's been notified because there's corn to be harvested here, so the farmer's been notified. So we've tried to take all the appropriate precautions to the extent we can. So I found it because someone chose to post it on Facebook, and I'm like, you could have just sent me an email or a text or something, but so anyhow, but because it had been underwater after all the rain had been underwater. So the guys have usual spots that they go check, but it had been underwater, got out from underwater, and somebody else saw it before we did. So that's, again, just an update that we're, taking care of that. And if there's any questions as we've got updates, I can certainly keep you apprised of updates on that.
Yeah, I would say just keep us in the loop with what's
Certainly.
going on out there. So in case anybody calls us.
Well, right. I'm like, yeah, this isn't a little thing. This is going to be a little noticeable when we're all said and done, but yeah. So
Okay, so that's it there.
I think so, yes.
Okay, so next up, minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of July 21st, 2021? God, that seems like it ages ago, but
Don't move, Statchen.
is there a second?
That's Mark, second.
Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing nothing. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. So we'll close the wetlands portion of the meeting. If I can read this fine print, 8:14.
Hey, Bob,
Yes?
this is Jay. I don't know, before you move on, because I know there really isn't much in the way of business in the Conservation Commission, can I just make a mention of an event that's coming up that really has nothing to do with inland wetlands or conservation, but I'm in the process of bringing it to all the task forces and commissions and stuff. And I just want to give a quick mention, if that's okay with you.
What I would suggest, let's get through the Conservation Commission portion.
Okay. All right. I just know by the time we're, all right, it's only going to take me a minute. Either way, that's fine. Thank you.
So we'll call the.
Just don't forget, I want to say something at the end.
I'm sure you'll remind me.
I will.
Oh my God.
Conservation Commission meeting to order at 8:15. Land Acquisition Committee report. I doubted if there's anything there.
No, other than the Land Acquisition Committee, all of our representatives received the email from Anna. The committee is going to meet, I think she said next week. So there should be hopefully you got your email. You look for it from Anna Savastano. She's assistant to Kathy Blonsky. And the meeting will take place in the council chambers next week in person. So that's, again, it came in from Anna. So that really is the update for land acquisitions.
I guess the question that I have on that is, having served acquisition previously,
Yes.
with Liz's passing, how are you coordinated? Has anybody thought about that?
At the moment, Kathy Blonsky will lead. So
Okay.
Kathy Blonsky is going to lead it for the moment, and then whether or not it moves to either myself or Catherine, that has yet to be determined. But at the moment, Kathy has indicated that she's going to take the lead with it. And it may likely stay with her. There is so much of it is tied to what Kathy needs to be involved with.
Yeah, I mean, the
How-
council and Kathy, so I mean, it makes sense in that respect, yeah.
Right. So yeah, I just found the email from Anna, September 9th. The agenda was attached. So that's also the night of our site walk. So there may be a conflict for a handful of you, but it is what it is. So, but that's a Liz's memorial event is this Friday at Winding Trails at 11 o'clock. And that's really it.
Okay.
So,
Anything on planners report?
planners report, I just have our reminder of some of our fall things that are coming up, household hazardous waste. And shredding event is October 16th at Simsbury from 8 to 1. Leaf collection, in case you're interested or anyone asks, is anticipated to start November 1st, is how it's advertised right now on our Highway and Grounds page. And hopefully everyone got the notice regarding the change to how our simple recycling program is working. It was a item in the summer newsletter, and there was also a separate flyer that was sent out that the program now is scheduled pickups similar to if anyone's done the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. It's similar to that. You log in, put in our zip code, it comes up and it gives you 2 dates as options for the month of September to have your recycling picked up. You select the date that's convenient for you and leave it out on your porch or driveway, wherever you want. There's a couple of options to designate. As long as it's out by 7:30 in the morning, they will pick it up sometime during that day. And so it's a little more streamlined, and it doesn't coincide with our recycling days anymore. So, so far, so good. There was a few hiccups initially, a few people needing reminders that it's not on your recycling day, but seems to be transitioning fine. So, and that's all I have.
All right, thanks. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of July 21st, 2021 for the Conservation Commission meeting?
So moved. Statute.
Is there a second?
Second, Berlandy.
Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing nothing, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, so moved. So we'll close the conservation meeting at 8:20.